She played games, so I rewrote the rules. 1. Setup. I was a hopeful man, built from long days and stubborn mornings. A quiet faith in the work I did and the people I chose to stand beside me. And I believed those bombs would last because I had given more than I took. I slept under the same roof as a woman who said she trusted me. A partner who spoke of grit and glory as if we were drafting a map to a future we would own. A brother who showed up with tools and jokes. A mentor who watched from the shadows and offered the right kick when the climb got steep. I was a craftsman of small miracles, stitching together a lean company from spare bedrooms and the stubborn breath of late nights, feeding every push with hope and the soft, stubborn weight of loyalty. I believed in her, in him, in them, in the way the air smelled after a long rain when plans felt possible, in the way the room grew warmer when we all leaned in to share a single quiet dream. I trusted because trust had kept me honest, and honesty had kept the doors open, and the doors were where we kept our promises. The wife, my partner in every sense, was a chorus of steady hands and careful smiles, a woman who knew the right phrases to calm a worried investor, and the right look to soothe a restless employee. The brother was a stubborn helper, a man who would rather lift a crate than admit a mistake, and the mentor spoke intention and timing, teaching me to measure risk like a craftsman weighs steel, to listen for the tiny creaks before a fault breaks the whole beam. I did not see the red flags as flags, but as signals that the ship was strong enough to weather storms, that loyalty was not a myth, but a practice, that a man could build a life by drawing others up when they asked for help. That is why I slept with the certainty that the house stood, because we stood together. Then came the first sting, the soft tremor of a trust betrayed not by a shout or a blow, but by the slow, careful choreography of games resting beneath smiles, the clockwork of small lies stitched into big decisions, a sense that the person I trusted most held back a truth large enough to topple us all if it ever spilled out. I did not notice the echoes at first, the way a favorite phrase would vanish from a conversation, the way her eyes would flick toward the door when a question wandered too close to a certain fringe of money and risk. I believed in our shared rules, in the code we wrote together, in the idea that a partnership could blend love and work without becoming a weapon. But I was wrong, and the wrongness crept up on me like a winter wind through a cracked window, cold and quiet, until it settled on the shoulders of my daily life and turned sunlight into a pale gloss of fear. The day she walked away, I did not hear the final call or see the final look. I only felt the sudden cold gap in the room where her presence used to be, as if someone pressed the mute button on the music of our days. The business began to tilt in the exact direction that would profit the other side, and the banker's smile, when I asked for one more loan, felt like a trophy of my own kindness, turned upside down. The room I stood in during the last board meeting carried the weight of a verdict I had not heard but already felt, a verdict spoken in the tremor of a colleague's voice, a verdict that this story did not include me if I stayed in it, if I believed that loyalty was a policy rather than a pulse. I watched the money move like a river bypassing a fallen log, and I knew with the honesty that cuts deeper than any blade that the plans we built together were now weapons used against us, that the warm dinners and shared jokes had become a map of routes to walk away with what we thought we owned. 2. Inciting incident. The betrayal came dressed as a new opportunity, and the opportunity wore her smile like a mask. She did not simply leave me. She slid into a brighter life and offered the world a show she claimed she could run better without me. The first message arrived late at night, a screen glow that felt too intimate for a business hour, a note that spoke of better prospects, a different future, and the sense that the empire we built was not a shared dream, but collateral to be used for her ascent. I found out through the cold, clinical method of a formal notice, an email thread she had chosen to keep private for the moment, then publicly, with the ease of a practiced villain who knows the score and the crowd. She had not just fallen for someone richer, she had learned to play the game she accused me of not mastering. a game where the rules changed depending on the room and the faces around the table. The moment of truth arrived with a crowd of people I had trained to trust me. A press conference of suits and glow-lit cameras where she told a story of miscommunication, of a man who did not see her worth until it was too late, of a partnership broken by a single stubborn ego. I listened as the room absorbed her words like heat that sinks into metal, and I heard the steel click in her voice when she hinted at my supposed fear of risk, my reluctance to let go of control, my stubbornness that she claimed would destroy us if I did not bow to her version of the plan. The humiliation was not in the words she spoke, but in the applause that rose for her, in the way the crowd warmed to her charisma, in the way I could sense the whisper that I had failed to adapt. When the room grew quiet and the cameras panned toward me, I stood with my hands loose at my sides and felt a cold dirt in my mouth, a taste of iron and regret that would color every breath I took for the long days to come. She had played me not with loud screams, but with quiet, relentless precision, and I tasted the truth in the silence. Our life together had become a stage, and I was the actor who forgot his lines. 3. Rising action. The collapse was not loud but total, the kind of fall that leaves you listening to the echo of your own heartbeat as you lay on a couch that used to be a throne, and wonder how you will rise again when every mirror shows the same tired face. I sank into a stubborn apathy, then woke with a feverish resolve, a decision to turn the tide by learning the exact notes of the instrument she had mastered, and then using them against her. I studied every document she had touched, every contract she had approved, every late-night message that hinted at plans she would not share with me. I retraced our steps, asking old clients and long-time vendors what they saw when they looked at us, and I learnt that the bond we had pretended was sacred was merely a currency for others to speculate on. I rented a spare office and stacked it with folders that smelled faintly of ink and courage, the way a pirate might store maps of hidden coves. I built alliances with people who had once trusted me and who now believed in the possibility of a fair reckoning. There was a moment when the weight of the truth they carried felt heavier than any debt I had ever carried. When I sat in the stillness of a late night and listened to my own breath, the sound of a man inventorying losses and still choosing to move forward. I learned to speak in short, careful phrases that could cut through noise, to look at faces and find the glint of hunger that told me where power hid, to time my questions like a surgeon times a cut. I felt the first sign of momentum in the way a rival firm began to offer subtle hints of weakness in her own operation, in the way a whistleblower reached out with a list of irregularities I could use, in the way an old mentor sent a single message that reminded me how to map out a clean path through a dirty field. The sensory truth of that period is simple. The air tasted metallic in the mornings. The coffee tasted of grit. The room smelled of new paper and old fear, and the sound of a ticking clock in a quiet room became the drumbeat urging me to keep moving. I learned to hide, to stack my progress unseen in the soft corners of a plan, to work through a network of handshakes but nods that never screamed, and to speak softly to the hungry egos in the room, who could either sink me or lift me. In this slow rebuilding, I found the first disciplined edge of iron I could call mercy. 4. Climax. The moment came in a room that mattered more to her than to me, a stage where truth would not be softened by the crowd. It could have been a courtroom or a press room, but it was a staged dinner, with colleagues and the press invited to witness a turning of the tides. I stood and watched her prepare the same rehearsed smile, the same light touch to the arm of a friend who would help her at the table, the same practiced words that promised the world while keeping a secret in the pocket of her blazer. Then the lights shifted, the room quieted, and I spoke with a calm I did not feel, with a voice that had learned to measure every breath. I presented my ledger, the dates, the signatures, the emails that proved beyond doubt that she had built a shadow company, that she had used our dream as a ladder, that she had taken what she wanted while leaving me with the wreckage. I did not cry or shout, but let the facts do the speaking for me. And the room watched her face change like a storm breaking over a calm sea, watched her eyes dart for support, and found none. The crowd opened their mouths to accept a narrative, and I showed them the other thread, the partnerships she had opened, the audits I had completed, the way I had protected workers who would have been left with nothing. When the final page lay on the table, when the fake smile finally slipped, and the truth landed with a weight that could not be argued away, her game collapsed in the exact moment my prepared confession did not need to be said aloud, because the evidence spoke for me, because justice begins where lies end, because the room finally saw the cost of the masquerade she had orchestrated. The applause that followed was not for me, but for the truth that stood taller than any lie she could tell. 5. Redemption arc. From that moment on, I did not chase revenge as a burning blade. I channeled the flame into something steadier, a long future built on service rather than on vengeance. I founded a foundation for betrayed entrepreneurs, a place where people who give everything to a dream can still recover when their trust is weaponized by the very people who should protect them. I wrote a book, not to pat myself on the back, but to offer a blueprint for resilience, a map of how to turn pain into a plan, how to protect what you build from the craved temptation of someone else's gain. I become a mentor for young founders, teaching them to measure risk, to keep secrets in the right places, to value loyalty as a living thing that must be nourished and fed with honest deeds. I regained control of the life I had almost lost, not by destroying her, but by releasing something larger inside myself, the quiet authority of a man who once believed his own story would end in a single bold act, and learned that a true ending comes from the slow, honest work of rebuilding a life that can outlast the worst betrayal. The work steadied my hands, and the work healed the hole in my chest that had kept me from sleeping at night. I learned to honor those who stood by me, to listen to a few trusted voices over the loud cheer of the crowd, to hold a curtain for others to pass through the door I had learned to open for them. 6. Ending. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe to this channel.